Welcome everyone. My name is Maor Goldberg, and I'm joined by Eran Leib and Rick Doten today. I'll let him introduce himself in a minute. This is what we hope will be a series of short recordings coming from Backline, really discussing enterprise security, AI and cybersecurity, and a topic that is close to our heart, which is remediation philosophy. And how can we, generally speaking, help large organizations better face the growing security backlogs that we're seeing all around. As I said, I'm joined by Eran Leib, who's one of my co-founders at Whitebook Security. Eran and myself are software engineers by profession, really, but spent most of our career in the cybersecurity space. I think a good third of it as cybersecurity practitioners, and last 20 years, 15 years or so, busy building security products. We were the founders of Whitebook Security and a policy after that, and Backline is our third venture. And again, really honored to have you here with us, Rick, today. If you want to, I'm sure most of the people who are watching know who you are, but I'll let you introduce yourself quickly, just to be safe.
Thank you so much. No, very happy to be here. My name is Rick Doten. I work for Centene Corporation here in the U.S. I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a health plan CISO, but more importantly is I spend a lot of time in my community and working with startups and working with thought leadership in AI and remediation and vulnerability management and security operations. And so just happy to have this discussion.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And we really appreciate the time and enjoy working with you. And I'm sure this will be a fun one. We started Backline really, and I'm just jumping into the first topic. We started Backline really because we've seen firsthand over the last 3 to 5 years how kind of we as an industry became expert at drowning large organizations in security issues. They're buying all kinds of tools, all kinds of great tools, I will say, cloud security tools, application security tools, identity tools, and so forth and so on. And all of these tools, without an exceptions, do one thing, and they all do it pretty well, is find more and more security issues, vulnerabilities that these organizations needs to fix. And we see a lot of challenges and a lot of struggle today with just the onslaught of security findings. And I wondered, Rick, from your perspective, what do you think are the main challenges organizations are facing today when it comes to tackling their security backlogs?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a very simple reason, and that is because we've automated the finding of problems, but we still manually fix problems. That's just the foundational issue. And it's been fun to, over the last 5 years, we worked with the startup community and seeing that, 5 years ago, my community and the CISOs say, we're not sure about our cloud. So posture management comes out. Now we don't know about our data posture management. Now we don't know about identity posture management. And all of these tools work the same way. And it's telemetry, into APIs to pull stuff. And then now we're at the point of a whole bunch of tools that are trying to normalize and deduplicate and prioritize, but it's still, we need help fixing it, right? And that's the big challenge. And all of my peers up and down the maturity level and size and industry struggle with a huge backlog because we have all this automation finding more and more problems and funneling it through, either to a certain path that a human will eventually need to fix. And so we really need to automate it. But we've been reluctant because we still have this PTSD from 25 years ago with IPS, where IPS from IDS started blocking things and taking out network segments. We're like, we can't have machines doing things. So that's what is the struggle. Every time I say it's like, we need to automate. And this has been a rant I've had for 2 years now. It's like, we need to automate remediation. And everybody always says well, we can't trust that they're going to not break something when they fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree completely. I think trust is a really big issue with everything that is around automation, right? Especially when in large organizations you see so much rigor around change management and the ability to roll back when you're doing something that is interfering and so forth and so on. So for many, and I was there with the PTSD with IPS, so I definitely remember the experience. And the funny thing, is that once you have this system in place, what I've learned is that every time something goes bad, it's your fault. It's this system fault. That's the first thing you need to do, is to prove that your firewall or intrusion detection or whatnot didn't break something.
Right.
So you're always on the guilty side.
Ethical hacking team's the same way. Anything happens on the network while we're there, it's our fault, and we have to kind of prove against it. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So, sorry, Eran, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I agree that, we kind of shoved this, elephant, or we're trying to shove this, findings elephant through the keyhole. And now we automated one side of finding and discovering all of them. But the influx itself, is it only because of that, or is it also because we moved to cloud security and now we're not only on-prem, we have a bigger environment eventually, also much more many more proliferation of services. So it's not just monolith and stuff like that. Now we have tons of services around. They're producing a lot of issues that you need to find, and you don't control the environment. So you have, what's causing all that?
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, is that often, containers were a cloud native thing, identities being dozens of non-human identities, hundreds and thousands of non-human identities supporting temporary workloads. So I agree that that's another thing that changed, is our architecture. It wasn't like physical servers running systems or virtualized servers on physical boxes. It's things spinning up and spinning down all the time. A lot of service-oriented architecture, a lot of APIs that are causing the surface area of what's going on. So yeah, absolutely. And then the cloud that makes it much more diverse. So even large companies that still have big data centers worth of stuff, they're still cloud workloads, but 99% of the organization should just be in the cloud. And, because, why try to manage your own thing? And so yeah, I agree that that's probably another element to it, is just more things to find because the environments are a lot more dynamic.
So kind of a follow-up on that. Do you think the ephemerality, I don't know if that's the right, verb to use, but things, going up and down, and, I would say that we're probably missing a lot of things, even on the discovery side, with, ephemeral services. But do you think that causes, one, maybe a blind spot to organizations, and two, even if they find stuff over there, they think, oh, well, maybe we don't need to take care of it because it goes up and down all the time. So what are the odds something bad will happen?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that yes, there could be gaps, but also we may not care about that. We care while it's up and running, and we want to make sure that when it's up and running, it's in a trusted state. If anything happens to it that's not, I can just drop it out and spin up something else. When it comes to incident response and forensics, I really want to go back and see, at this point in time, a week ago, when some anomaly happened, I want to be able to get to it and understand what happened. But I think that just the other thing to it, honestly, is cheaper storage. Now we're logging more things. There's more things to log, and there's more logging that's happening. And so, we are now finding more things because there's more things that's kind of, and the telemetry is a little better as well, of being able to, nothing in the cloud, nothing happens without it being recorded. I could go into a data center, put in a box, plug it into the wall, and until it gives, if I assign an IP address, it's like nobody knows it's even there yet until someone looks for it. But every single step of self-provisioning is, there's an account that made it, there's a thing that spun up, there's credit for it. So I think that contributes to the surface area. And also the challenge and the number, which I guess we haven't really talked about yet, is all the duplication. Because all these tools are finding the same problems. And as you kind of referred to, Eran, is that, all these temporal things is like, you don't have, this was something I talked about 5 years ago. In the cloud, you don't have, 10 vulnerabilities, you have 10,000, because it's replicated every single time it spins up and spins down, and it's being counted as another one.
I just wanted to say, to Rick's point on telemetry, that I do feel that our industry is way more mature today than it was 20 years ago. I remember being a security, practitioner, late 90s. We didn't have so many tools that scan and find and prioritize. We were scrambling for tools. And today there's, I think we're like almost on the other extreme opposite. Like there are way too many tools. We're talking to customers with 15 different AppSec scanners for whatever reasons. So to your point, Rick, there's many duplications, many different findings that you found it in the code once, and then in the runtime once, and then in the CI/CD, and so forth and so on. So there's just a lot that comes from, some of it healthy, more mature, but some of it because of
the footprint's much larger. Because I remember, the MSSPs 25 years ago, it's like you monitor firewalls and you monitor IDS. I mean, EDR wasn't a thing yet. Web application firewalls came later. It's just like it was very, very simple.
Yeah, definitely. And to credit all of our friends out there in the security vendors that scan and find issues, they are incredible, right? You see the security research team in different companies. They find things. They work tirelessly to stay ahead. So. Like we're also doing a way better job in being able to detect vulnerabilities quickly and things that maybe in the past.
It's a good point that we can't like knock all of these things, finding all the problems, because we do need to, but then the challenge becomes the prioritization, and the prioritization based on business impact, not based on the CVE score or whatever. Yeah,
absolutely. This is actually, I think, a great segue to the next topic we wanted to touch upon, and that's SLAs, right? We've when we started Backline, as any startup founders will do, we're doing market validation. We're talking to CISOs, and we're trying to understand what's the state of remediation and how people think about it. And we're starting to have this conversation around SLA, and we've discovered something that was, to me, mind-blowing. We're talking to security teams who are telling us that the first thing that they do with a vulnerability is to find reasons or to justify, quote unquote, why the severity of that particular vulnerability is actually lower in their environment. Which, as a security person, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why do you need to take this kind of risk, which feels unnecessary? But then when you double click on it, there's actually a good reason, because they're telling us, look, if I will treat everything that comes in as is, and with all of these criticals, and my need really to meet a certain SLA, there is absolutely no way that I will meet my SLA. And so if we can find a way to say, look, I don't, it's not critical, it's high, so instead of 30 days, maybe I have 90 days, it's a game changer for us. And I was wondering, while hearing these, it was very surprising at first, but then as it became more and more common answer, I was wondering, what does this do for us from a security perspective? Do we leave too many things, just there? Because you know what? It's not high, it's maybe medium, and we can just leave it.
Right. And that's where it kind of comes down to business impact, because the reality is security people don't fix things. IT people fix things. We just provide them the insight. And one element is, yes, if I lower the severity, then I have longer SLA. But it really boils down to business impact. And that business impact is, okay, is it an externally facing device that there's a known exploit to be able to go after it? All right, and it's a system against a system that is critical to our business. So that would be like, let's get that first. But there's also intangible things that are business area things, such as, this may be a platform that has a lot of sensitivity incident from, because it's real important to the business, not because of the sensitivity of the data, because we can map out the data classification, and we have business impact analysis that define all of our systems, and what if this were down for 6 hours it would be bad, or this could be down for a week and it'll be fine. So those are all these business relevant things that the business decides what they can live and live without. So from security people, we think about it as security standpoint, but it's really about risk management. And And knowing that IT has these tens of thousands of things to fix, it's the things that are going to best impact and reduce the reduction of risk to the business. While there may be other things that we can compensate with better monitoring or isolation or something we can live with. So it's not really a simple answer. But from academically, it seems like it's critical. We know that people can exploit it. I can see this path. It's like, yeah, but it's not going to impact the business. We would see it. We build a block if it happens. If it does get exploited, they wouldn't go do much, and we isolate it quickly. You know, those all things kind of are non-tangible that we make into play.
Kind of want to touch on a word you said there. You said to compensate. Now, in many cases, we have all sort of, like compensating controls or compensating, like mitigations and stuff like that. And people tend to think that, like, oh, I have something that is covering me, and that's enough. But from a security perspective, security, like good security, is security in depth. It's not, like one, like single line of defense. The fact that you have something that is, like maybe blocking access doesn't mean that you have a vulnerability that if someone would go around that and would be able to get there. So I mean, what are your thoughts about that when it comes to, like people saying, oh, I have something that is covering that, and they're leaving their back door actually open in case something gets around that?
Right. There's about realistic compensation, right? No controls are effective 100% of the time. We've seen a lot. EDRs, maybe 70% effective. I mean, so if you are thinking that any control is 100% effective, then it's wrong. That's why we have layers, as you described, but also we compensate with observability, response, and recovery. Right. And that's a thing, my friend Sunil Yu does a presentation about, the NIST cybersecurity framework, and it's like identify, protect, detect, respond, recover. And he overlaid all of the cybersecurity products, and 99.9% of them identify, protect, detect. And there's like a splattering and respond, recover. Right. And so, we're putting a lot of emphasis on this and not on this. And so if, in my risk management perspective from a business standpoint, is there's a compensating control that will slow things down, give me an entry point to see if something happens that I could respond before it harms me, then I can accept that until I get to the point where I need to fix it, from a more permanent standpoint. So I don't think that, if in a proper risk management approach, then it is compensation is a temporary until it's remediated or it's accepted. And, and the business is the ones who accept that risk. Technical people don't make business decisions. And so if there's a compensating control and we say to the business, we reduce the risk by, there was like a 80% risk, and now we reduce into like a 20% risk. And they may say, that's fine, I accept that, because there's other things that are eating our lunch that I want to pay attention to until that changes. So it's kind of an ever evolving calculus where we're kind of defining, the risk aspects. But you're absolutely right. If you just from an academic, like, oh, this is vulnerable, I'm going to put in a firewall rule, now I'm good. No, I would not even accept that. I would say, well, for how long?
Not even academically. I'm saying, like, as a security guy, I'm looking at things and I'm saying, okay, if I can fix it, I'd like to fix it. I'd like to not keep it open if I can.
Right. But if you don't have the people or the time or the resources to fix it, then I need to compensate until I can get that. And and as we all know, it's no perfect security. It's to acceptable level of risk. And different organizations have different thresholds. Like some are willing to accept more risk because they feel like they may be in organizations that may not have availability requirements. So if something goes down, I can recover and that's fine. So these are all these business decisions. And this is something that when I'm talking to the vendor community, that unless you unless you come out of the business and being in the role as a CISO and working with, all the operations, business operations and financial and everything, they're trying to make decisions for the business where we're like trying to protect things technically.
I think, I completely agree, and I've done the same thing, right? There is something that you'll do a project next year. You're going to buy a new tool, and you have a budget for it in the next 12 months. So you need to do something temporary. So I really kind of love the way you framed it around. This is something until we remediate it. What like I'm worried, and I'm wondering, just the pace of telling ourselves, okay, I will do it later, I'll do it later, I will do it later. A, do we really get to it? Because the backlog just keep growing. And B, I think particularly in cloud, because the environment is more dynamic, is that when you looked at an issue at that point in time and you said, look, right now, because of whatever, this is not critical, this is high, and you leave it for 6 months, so many things could change that will, without even knowing, quote unquote, will all of a sudden make it a high, but it's still there because at that point in time, it was not a high, it was a medium.
Yeah, no, it's an ongoing thing. And I will say most people don't do it well, because you need to pay attention to this vulnerability management and configuration management cycle. Is we're addressing it on a rotation basis. It was like, okay, how do we feel about this decision now? Because of all the reasons, like you said, how do we feel about this now? How do we feel about this now? But one of the things is like the reality of 99% of organizations is, I was up in Boston recently at a healthcare security conference, small one. And I love being at this conference because there's a lot of providers, a lot of the hospital systems, and my peers in the hospitals who are, obviously less funded and less resourced than I am. And they struggle with like, I know I need to do these things. I don't have the resources and I don't have the money. And it's not that my executives are not like supporting of me. They're even saying, it's like they're looking at the checkbook like, listen, we'd love to do this, but we can't. We need to make payroll and we need to do things. And we just have to accept the risk, knowing that there could be a problem. We hope that cyber insurance will recover us and we don't go out of business. And then we can go to the board and ask to do something if something goes wrong. And that's the unfortunate reality of a lot of organizations, is we don't get to be perfect and we don't get to be able to catch up. And I think that it's going back to your original point is, if we can get ahead of it, then we're not going to have to make these choices. And the reason why we're so far behind is because we've automated the finding, but we're still manually fixing. And we need to automate the fixing. It's kind of like one of my, talking with a lot of my developer friends about using AI for coding. And they say, okay, if my developers are 30% more effective, why would I get rid of 30% of my developers? Now they can catch up. So I'm giving them tools to make them more effective and get ahead because they've been behind all the time. This is a boon. This is not like a staff replacement thing. So I look forward to better automation in remediation to help get ahead of it so we don't have to make these decisions that we've been just talking about.
Yeah, the scary thing is, I agree with you completely. I was recently on a fireside chat with Anthropic CISO, and he described how bad actors are doing the exact same thing, right? They're building agents to find more vulnerabilities more quickly and more effectively.
More exploits.
And more exploits, of course. So we are improving, but the other side is improving as well.
Yeah, but we're still finding more things. It's the fixing side that's still a struggle. And I've talked to 3, automated pen test teams that use agentic AI to crawl everything, at the same time. I mean, it's very, very thorough. But again, it's adding more to the stuff to be fixed.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you feel like it's this arms race? Would that be something, like Maor said, like bad actors, good actors, like we're all using, everyone is using agentic AI. My bet is that next year at RSA, the theme on the floor is going to be securing agentic AI.
We're doing that now.
Next year. But do you think that is something that can also push, like this necessity can push the industry forward to actually accepting, okay, we're going to accept, like AI coding and AI fixing and stuff like that faster versus,
yes. And like I said, this is a rant I've had for 2 years, and, anticipating this is that there is no way we're going to keep up unless we automate it. But we also have the solution. And I did a presentation for Cloud Security Alliance that was recorded a couple months ago that kind of stitches together. I mean, we have technology even at the time, and that's before MCP and before A2A, and our ability to control the agents a lot easier. of being able to provide that confidence in the fixing, because, I famously say, I said it again this morning too, of like, agentic AI is like having an unlimited number of interns with an unlimited amount of time, right? And I trust them equally, which is not very much, but I'll give them simple tasks to come back to me, right? And so if I have all of these different people doing these things, then, okay, I'm automating the things that I have the humans doing. And so when IT needs to fix the stuff, when we're kind of negotiating with them what the real criticality is, because they have other things to do and they have only so much time in the day, and now you have an unlimited number of them, then wow, we can expand it. But then it can do the things like make sure that what is the scope of the issue, what is the root cause, let's test the fix, and let's give this ticket to the human, because we're not changing the change control process. We're just automating things that humans are doing, and then creating that ticket with all the evidence of here's what I did, here's what I test, here's the test results of it, here's what I want to do to fix it. All stuff that humans would be doing anyway. And frankly, humans are slow, messy, and prone to mistakes. And we're probably putting more scrutiny on the agentic AI than we are the humans that are doing it today. And so it goes in that change control process, and the human approves it, or steering committee approves it, or there's a green zone where it gets put in. That doesn't change. We're just like with development, we're getting 80% there. And then the human like validates it, gets it all in. We go through all the scanning and the same thing, just like any third-party code, and then get it up into production. We're just kind of automating things that humans are doing. And that's the thing we'll get over that fear of, automated remediation, is we're giving you all the data that we tested it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, when we look at the same thing from our product side, this is exactly what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to build an experience that, exactly to your point, this is as good as, hopefully better than, what your junior software engineers will do, right? You still supervise your junior engineers. Someone still reviews their code. Someone still approves it. So all
just
of that
as transparent, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
even more, by the way. Even more.
And I was good. Even more transparent, because when we're talking about, like, I know when the AI is doing its thing, I'm watching what it's thinking about, and I don't get to see that in the human. I don't know the human's intent, their motivation, or anything, but I can see it in the AI.
You can see the human desire for lunch in their eyes.
You can see the human saying, "I'm not going to write comments here."
Yes, my daughter asked me the other day, because Waymo is starting to circling in our neighborhood, and she asked me, "What would you prefer? Would you prefer a human driver or Waymo?" And I told her I would prefer Waymo, and she asked why. And I told her two reasons. First, to be honest, it's way cheaper today. And the second thing is that AI doesn't get tired, right? AI didn't have a bad day in the office, didn't sleep well at night, and it's just there and consistent. Of course, there are risks and there are things that you need to think about. But in the end of the day, if I need to choose, I will choose Waymo.
Right. And we kind of like get up in arms whenever one of those automatic cars like does something bad. It was like, oh, it hit somebody this week. It's like, while we were having this conversation, 5 people got hit by humans, right? Yeah. I mean, again, we're kind of setting too high. No, I'm saying that too high standards, and I'm not saying we can't trust it until we verify it. But the level of scrutiny we're putting on this agentic AI is exponentially more than the humans doing it. And are we going to now start looking at the humans saying, wait a minute, I'm going to want more from you? Because also the self-driving car, I was on discussion about this, where it's more consistent, as you said, and it's trained in the trolley paradox. You kill 1, you kill 5, and we've all seen the videos where a car driving, and an old man falls in the road, and it just goes around the man and goes head-on collision. And it was like, human would not have reacted that fast. It would have not have made that ethical decision as quickly. It would have, kind of, depending on the human, could have froze up. So yes, but I think that, again, it's still human support, not displacement.
Yeah, by the way, it's not ethical decision by the machine. It's just a decision.
Yes, exactly.
For you as a human, it's an ethical decision in your mind.
Right. Exactly. And we're going to have to take the, right. Yeah. And I've left the whole paper I published this week on with some writing partners about ethics models to be able to support that. And that's a whole other discussion. We can have another call.
That's actually a super interesting discussion. Yeah. So we think about remediation, and we talked about the problem, and I think we're all on the same page. And to be fair, every CISO we meet keep telling us the same things. There are too many issues where the backlogs are growing. We have a lot of automation, and we're great at finding things, but we need more help at fixing things. So if you have a magic wand, how's an ideal future looks like to you?
Yeah, I describe it in this presentation. You can go search my name in Cloud Security Alliance and find it on, vulnerability remediation, automated remediation using agentic AI. And there are, and at the time I did this a few months ago, and things have evolved since then. There are things that, okay, we have this big pipeline coming through. And to be fair, a lot of the tools are deduplicating and normalizing and helping in prioritization, right? That are finding the things. But then we have further to, helping and defining the root cause and defining, automating all the things that humans are doing, like I described, which is this real? What is the scope of it? What is the importance of it to the business, linking it to all the business things I talked about before? What do I need to fix it? Is fixing it going to break anything, or is fixing anything make me have to fix something else? If I upgrade this, do I need to upgrade the operating system to match that? What is the scope of it? Figure out how it's going to work, and then test it and regression test it to make sure it doesn't impact performance, doesn't impact compatibility, doesn't impact all the things, compliance that I need to do, and then bundle all that up and send it to a ticketing system to say, okay, human, through the change control process that already exists, I did all the things that you would want me to do. Shall I fix it or not? Would you like me to fix it? And, push this button and I'll magically do that for you, to make them feel comfortable that all of that is there. And it is possible today. The technology is there, and there are tools that today can be stitched together to put all that together. And I think that being able to automate that is critical to our success for all the reasons we've been talking about. But it's available today. It's just kind of getting over the fear and trust for the reasons we also talked about, that I think that we have good evidence to show that we can give them a lot more confidence in the transparency of it.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree. I think it's a lot about transparency, accuracy, and trust. And once we figure out these three things together, we will get there. And I will say what I always say, or at least recently, is that I'm sure we will, right? You already see what's going on around us. You see the improvements in foundational models last 2 years. And I'm pretty confident that 3 to 5 years from today, a lot of our security backlogs wouldn't be need to reprioritize or mitigated or whatnot. We could just go and remediate all of these issues.
And we'll get the speed. It was kind of like, my younger son was a boxer through his teenage years, and they talk about like form first, and when you perfect form, then you get speed. And so let's figure out how do this right, and then we can start accelerating it and start burning down those backlogs.
I love it. I'm gonna borrow it. Form first,
please.
Speed later.
It's insane because I was a swimmer as a teen, and my coach used to say exactly the same.
Yeah, it applies to all disciplines.
Getting the right form, and then you accelerate.
Right. Yeah. Whether it's golf or bowling or baseball or football, everything probably applies to everything.
Yeah.
But I think for sports like repetitive, like swimming, boxing, stuff like that, form is critical.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it applies to soccer too, to be fair, which is less repetitive.
I guess it's amplified on repetitive sports. Yeah.
Cool. Rick, thank you very much. That was super valuable. We really enjoyed the conversation, as always.
My pleasure.
And we appreciate your time. And thanks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And for those who were watching, thank you for joining us today.